Did you know the story of humanity actually begins in Africa? For centuries, a false narrative has painted the continent as a historical blank slate, a place without civilization, without innovation, without a past worth remembering. But that is a lie, a deliberate erasure designed to justify oppression and exploitation. Welcome to Myth-Busting History, where we dig deep to uncover the truth. Today, we are dismantling the biggest myth about African history, revealing the vibrant, complex, and essential role Africa has played in shaping the world. Forget the stereotypes. Prepare to have your understanding of history completely transformed. Let's start at the very beginning, the origin of humanity. Modern genetic and archaeological evidence overwhelmingly supports the fact that anatomically modern humans emerged in Africa between 200,000 and 100,000 years ago. That's right, all humans, regardless of skin color or background, trace their ancestry back to Africa. Discoveries in places like Jebel Irhoud in Morocco and the Omo Kaibish Formation in Ethiopia provide irrefutable proof. Africa isn't just the cradle of civilization, it's the cradle of humankind. To claim that Africa has no history is to deny the very roots of our species. As Professor Cheikh Anta Diop, a pioneering African historian, argued, acknowledging Africa's role in human origins is crucial to understanding world history. A central myth we need to confront is the outright denial of African civilizations, cultures, and histories. This isn't just ignorance, it's a deliberate distortion. The historical record reveals a tapestry of diverse and sophisticated societies across the African continent. From the ancient civilization of Egypt, with its monumental architecture, advanced mathematics, and complex religious beliefs, to the Kingdom of Aksum in present-day Ethiopia, a major trading power with its own written language and impressive obelisks, to the Great Zimbabwe, a powerful kingdom known for its monumental stone structures, Africa was a hub of innovation and cultural development. Even the idea that sub-Saharan Africa was somehow isolated from global events is false. Trade routes crisscrossed the continent, connecting African societies to the wider world long before European colonialism. Gold, salt, textiles, and knowledge flowed between Africa, Asia, and Europe. The suppression of this history served a specific purpose, to dehumanize African people and justify the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade. Another harmful myth is the idea that Africa lacked written traditions. While alphabetic writing systems arrived later in many parts of Africa, that doesn't mean history was absent. Oral literature, court histories, praise poetry, and genealogies were powerful tools for preserving knowledge and transmitting cultural values across generations. These oral traditions are rich sources of historical information, providing insights into political systems, social structures, and religious beliefs. Moreover, several African civilizations developed their own unique writing systems. The Guizi script of Aksum, the hieroglyphs of ancient Egypt, and the Zibidi script of southeastern Nigeria are just a few examples of indigenous African writing systems. Even where alphabetic writing was not widely used, sophisticated systems of record-keeping existed, such as the use of cowrie shells and knotted cords. To dismiss these traditions as unimportant is to apply a Eurocentric bias to the study of history. The myth of a homogeneous, undifferentiated Africa is equally damaging. The continent is incredibly diverse, encompassing a vast range of ethnic groups, languages, religions, and political systems. To lump all Africans together as a single, monolithic entity is to ignore the rich tapestry of human experience. From the nomadic pastoralists of the Sahara to the agricultural communities of the rainforest, from the powerful empires of West Africa to the city-states of the Swahili coast, Africa has always been a continent of immense diversity. This diversity is reflected in the continent's languages. Africa is home to thousands of distinct languages, belonging to several major language families. Each language represents a unique cultural heritage, a distinct way of understanding the world. Recognizing and celebrating this diversity is essential to understanding African history. Furthermore, the narrative that African states were somehow primitive or chaotic before colonialism is demonstrably false. Across the continent, Sophisticated systems of governance, law, and administration existed long before European contact. The Ashanti Empire in present-day Ghana, for example, had a complex political structure, a sophisticated legal system, and a well-organized military. The Kingdom of Congo in Central Africa had a centralized government, a thriving economy, and diplomatic relations with European powers. These states were not perfect, of course. They experienced internal conflict and external pressures. But they were far from the stateless societies that colonial powers often portrayed them as. The erasure of these histories served to legitimize colonial rule, portraying Europeans as bringing order and civilization to a continent lacking them. The reality is that African societies were perfectly capable of governing themselves, and many had done so for centuries. The transatlantic slave trade had a devastating impact on African societies, both physically and psychologically. Enslavement stripped people of their identities, disrupted social structures, and fueled racist ideologies that continue to plague the world today. The myth of African inferiority was created to justify the enslavement and exploitation of millions of people. This myth has had a lasting impact on how African history is understood and taught. It's crucial to recognize that the transatlantic slave trade was not just an economic enterprise, it was a crime against humanity. It robbed Africa of its human capital, distorted its development, and left deep scars that are still felt today. Reclaiming African history is not just about correcting the historical record, it's about restoring African agency and empowering future generations. By understanding the rich and complex history of the continent, we can challenge the stereotypes and prejudices that have been used to justify oppression and discrimination. We can celebrate the achievements of African people and recognize their contributions towards civilization. We can create a more just and equitable world for all. The rediscovery and reinterpretation of African history are ongoing processes. Scholars are constantly uncovering new evidence, challenging old assumptions, and developing new perspectives. Oral traditions are being collected and preserved, archaeological sites are being excavated, and historical archives are being re-examined. This work is essential to ensuring that African history is accurately and respectfully represented. Let's continue to listen to the voices of African historians, researchers, and storytellers, and let's work together to build a future where African history is celebrated and valued by all.